So we're gonna look at two different games today, but one I think in particular is a perfect gateway game to another gateway game. Let's get into it. What's good, y'all? I'm Ryan, and welcome to the Board Game Journey, where you will be joining me to play 1,000 games. Last video we were at 124, so you take the two videos from today, that brings us to 126 games played. Yeah, just keep it rolling. Let's get to the first game. The first game is gonna be Waddle. This is a game I picked up from All Play. Yeah, I think I just went at Gen Con, I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah, Gen Con. I think I played a sample there, and I was like, I could see my family group really digging this game. And honestly, when I got home, it was great. I mean, it went over really well. It's just a fun decision space. And right when I played it, I was like, this game reminds me of something I played before, which we'll get into in the next game. So with Waddle, you have this modular board, which is great. I love games that do this, where like you just randomly make the board and then you play, because every game is be so different. And with this game, as the title suggests, a group of penguins, you make your Waddle, and essentially just like runs. You're trying to get like your color to be in bigger groupings. Like if it's in one versus like having 8 of them scores different points. So let's break it open and show you how the game looks. Put the board together without really thinking about it, and every time you play, it's gonna be a very different game. So this is part of All Play's 1 minute to teach, but let's put that to the test. Okay, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be fine. This is an easy game to teach. It's just the strategy that is the part that maybe doesn't come right away, but I can see most people playing this game like, a few turns in, they finally go, oh, I get this little turn order thing. Because to me, this is a big key of the game. When to pass your turn and when to take your turn. It's a huge part of the game. So let's just go through a couple turns and you'll quickly learn how this game works. So we'll start at number 1. Now there's only 2 places adjacent to this spot that you could go. Depending on where you are, like for instance, like at number 8, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places you could go. So for now, Red needs to determine, do they want to go here or do they want to pass their turn? So let's just say Red decides to go. Great. Now their marble goes to the back. And the next person, Yellow. Yellow has to decide. Yellow might, you know what? I'm going to pass. Yellow is like, I want to save it for later. So they'll go. Now, if they pass, now they're the first person to go on the next turn. So it's important to know that. Now, Orange might be like, you know what? I'll go. And that's it. Once Orange goes, the turn are done because both those spots are finished. Take one more turn and we'll explain some of the details here. So now Yellow is up. This thing will move to number 2. And now since Yellow did pass, they get to go first. Now the reason they passed is because they saw, hey, the 2 didn't have any points. Because some of these fishing holes have points associated to them. If you have the majority of your penguins next to it, you'll get the points at the end of the game. So for instance, on the 6 here, there's 3 points. So there's only 3 spaces. So if you can have 2 of those 3, potentially, you might win this. I said potentially because everyone has 2 of these penguins that have basically double up. So technically, if someone had a 2 penguin there and 2 single penguins, well, they would tie. That's why I said potentially. Depends on the situation. But essentially, as long as you have a majority of those 3 spaces, you would get the 3 points at the end of the game. But with Yellow, they kind of said, you know what? I could be next to 2 and also next to the 6. That's why they wanted to go there. Because maybe they can work it out later where they can also go here, if they can work it out where they can go first that time as well. So then Yellow would then, their turn, now Green is up. Green would say, you know what, I'm gonna cut off Yellow. They know Yellow is up to something funny, so they're gonna cut Yellow off. So then Green's going, now there's only one more spot, so Red needs to decide, is it worth Red going there? Because the 3 is gonna be, we decide over here. So maybe Red's like, you know what, maybe I can go here and build a bridge to get more adjacencies. Because at the end of the game, if you have large connected groups of your penguins, you score a lot of points. For instance, if you only have 1, it's 1 point. But if you can get 5 connected penguins of your color, you score 12 points. If you can get 8, you can get 36 points, and so on and so forth. So there's definitely a lot of advantage to getting a lot of penguins in order. So you kind of have to think ahead about where you're going and where the turn orders will be going in the future to see if you can make these groupings. So this is to finish out this 1 turn. There's 1 more spot left. Red says, I'm going to go for it. Boom. Now they go here. And now it's just the next round. We would pick this up. It would go to the 3. And now it's Orange's turn to go first, right? So they can go here, 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 right? Basically, a lot of options. So this will continue until you go through all the different numbers, and then you just score. You score all your Waddles, basically all the different groupings of your penguins, and then you score who gets the points on the different fishing holes, right? It's pretty straightforward. It plays really smooth, but the choices do get pretty tense because it's a game where knowing when to pass. Because for instance, you go, if I pass now, I can guarantee to go first because I really want to get this penguin played here to make this connection. And also it's about figuring out when to play your double penguins that gave you double the points, because maybe that could be the crucial one to give you potentially a majority on 2 different fishing holes depending on where you place it. And also the last thing I didn't mention is you can get stuck putting a lot of penguins down you don't want to put down, because if everyone passes and you're the last one left, you have to just play out the fishing hole. So if, for instance, if we were at say 8, and then we'll just say for funsies, all these people here are there, and green's the last one standing. I mean, every other player passed, but except for green, there's 2 more spots left. So they would just have to fill those in. Now, that could be a good thing because maybe there are 2 spots that he really wants and they don't benefit the other person. So there's always that tension of like, oh, do we want to give him these spots? Like he just gets them without having to fight for them. Or it could be bad because maybe there are spots that are in the corner and they give you nothing. And then all he's going to score is this measly, 2 Waddle, which is going to give him 3 points. So these are always another thing I didn't mention, but it's definitely something to consider when playing. So Waddle does a really good job introducing the concept of like placement. Because with Rebirth, it's all about making these runs, which is very similar to this, like Waddle. You score more points for the bigger groupings you have. And it also introduces this like tension about when to like cut somebody off, when to like leave somebody alone, when to like, hey, it's just this whole idea of like thinking about the board as a whole and not just about your turn. So I think this game just gets people in that mindset. So when we transition to the next game, which we will right now. Next up is Rebirth from the good old Dr. Reiner Knizia. I mean, definitely a fan favorite right now in this household. I play a lot of Knizia games. It's all about getting those big old groupings and adjacencies. And yeah, it's definitely the good old Dr. Reiner Knizia at his finest. I honestly doubted him when I first played this the first game. The first 5 minutes of playing, I was like, I don't know, this game, I don't see how there's much of a game here. You're just kind of putting things down and it doesn't feel like there's much stakes. I was wrong. I was very much wrong. This game, the intensity might start at a low simmer, but it gets to a rolling boil before you know it. So the turn structure with Rebirth is so easy. That's why I think this is a great gateway game. Is you take a tile, you look at it, and then you place it on the board, and that's your whole turn. So if I'm an orange player, I picked up this energy leaf icon thing here. I can place it on any tile here, any space on the board that has that same icon. I can even put it on one with no icon if I wanted to. And then each one of those is worth 1 point. So I would score 1 point for that, right? And then blue would go. Blue, oh, they drew a little lightning bolt, a little energy thing here. So now they can go any place here that has an energy icon or a spot that has nothing. So maybe they go here and they just scored 1 point. Pretty simple. This is what the main similarity of Waddle overlaps with this. You get a lot more points for bigger groupings. Because if orange win again and say they got another one of those same symbols and they put it here, well, instead of scoring 1 point, now they immediately score 2 points, right? And if they did it again, now they score 3 points. So the bigger the grouping is, the larger you're going to score. So if I go here, for instance, now that's 4 more points. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it starts to get out of control. Now the question is, do I stop them? Just like Waddle, because maybe you want to block the person. Like, hey, I don't want to get 7 or 8 penguin in a row, so I need to stop them. So, but then you're also got your own thing going. Like if I got this big run, say blues over here, say they're doing lightning bolts. So now they're getting 2 for lightning bolts. And so on and so forth. And they're like, I got this big lightning bolt. I want to go stop them. You stop them, other third player. So there's definitely this tension where people are kind of doing their own thing. And then you got to eventually figure out, like, I can't just, if you let this person go out of control, before you know it, they're getting 20 points, 22 points. They're getting so many points per score, they can just run away with the game. So you got to stop them, but are you the one to stop them? So the other part is this little housing area. So there's different parts on the board. There's like single, doubles, and triples. How these work is if you would just go by yourself into a little single area, your little housing area, you just score the points that are on the tile. In this case, this is a 4-house token, so I would just get 4 points. If it was a single house, I would get 1 point. But if I was going to like this area with 2, spaces within the same division, If I was the only one there, I would score 5 and 3 points. I would get a total of 8 points. If it was shared, for instance, I wouldn't get the whole 8. Then we split it. Then it becomes I get 5, they get 3. So there's definitely this like tension. Like, okay, are you letting him get the whole 8 points? But are you willing to go there for less points? Right? It's always like, oh, I'd rather go somewhere else and get 5, maybe get my own 8 points. Why I have to stop him and only get 3? So there's that going on. And if you can get one of these 3 spots by yourself, you would get the 8 and 5. You get all those points. You get 13 points by yourself. Now, sharing there will give you 5. So if there's a second person there with less houses on the icons than you, they would get 5, you would get 8. If there's a third person there, they get 0. So now you're trying to be the most person. There's a lot of tension in these spots, especially if you go in there with a 1, icon. They can easily beat you out with a 4, and now you're like, shoot, I just potentially wasted my turn there. The last piece we haven't spoke about yet are these yellow and pink spaces here. What do those do? Well, those are the cathedrals in the castles. So for instance, if you go next to a space with a castle, you take one of your castles and you claim dominance in that little castle region, right? And that will stay there unless someone happens to beat you out. So for instance, if orange, right now I have 2 of my lightning bolts here next to this castle. There's still 3 spaces that are open. So if orange, I'll just pretend those are lightning bolts. If orange could somehow get those lightning bolts on those 3 spaces, well, now they have majority. They have 3 versus my 2. So they would kick my castle out and put their castle there. Castles in the game were 5 points. So I've literally seen myself get a bunch of castles and maybe not and be behind. But if you have 10 castles and that's 50 points at the end of the game, that's a lot of points. So this is where it gets a little bit spicy. Is if you can maybe block somebody from getting a big run, but also start getting some majority over a castle, that's where there's some cool motivations. Like maybe I will go there because stop him from going further this way. Maybe I can continue that run. And also maybe I'll wrap around this way to get myself around this castle, maybe take it over, right? So that's something to consider. The last piece we haven't really spoke about was the cathedrals. So if you go next to one of these yellow spaces, you take one of your cathedral markers and you mark it. Now this anyone can go to, so they'll just stack on top. So if they went there on a later turn, they would just stack on top. What this does is give you a little private objectives. You draw one of these cards and it gives you a little goal. Sometimes it says, for instance, this first one says, okay, if you have the most cathedrals on the board, you score an extra 5 points. So there's a lot of these yellow spaces. So you might have a bunch of these cards at the end of the game. Some of them you can score, some of them you can't score. And it really depends on, it depends on how invested you are in trying to finish most of these. But they could definitely make the difference in who wins and loses. So as I'm sitting here explaining this game, I feel like it definitely feels like a lot more than Waddle. But I would say just a little bit. That's why I say Waddle is a good stepping stone, a good gateway to the gateway. Because they learn this idea of having these connected groupings to score points. The only piece you're really having to tell them now is about these castles and these cathedrals. And the cathedrals are just little mini games. They're just little things, okay, if you can do this or if you can have majority of this castle, you get more points. It's pretty easy to explain what these are. The castle piece is probably the unique part. It's hard to explain because you have to explain hey, how do you get majority? If you have a house, how does this work? If you're a tie, just getting through those rules, but that's not bad. Because I would say they come in with a good 80% of the knowledge of the idea of this game, and you just got to explain one little part. So boom, I almost feel silly doing that with this size difference. So what do you guys think about? Have you guys played these games? Which one do you agree with me? Do you agree that Waddle is a pretty good, decent, gateway to the gateway? Do you agree with that? But bottom line, I think both these are just fantastic gateway games. They both have gone over well with my in-laws. I have played them both. I actually did it in reverse order. I did this one first, and then they did this one, which also worked because they learned this one, which was admittedly a slightly tougher teach, not that much harder, but then they learned this one very quickly. So, because I basically compared it to Rebirth. That's why I had the idea for the video. I was like, hey, you guys played Rebirth, and they understood that game really well. And so this is very similar, and the castles in Rebirth are kind of like the fishing ponds in Waddle. So that's another overlap I didn't mention earlier. So there's just a lot of similarities, but obviously this one's just an easier game to bring with me. You know what I mean? And it also plays up to I think 5 players. So this only plays 4. So I think both games are great to have in collection. I think they both have different purposes. I love the table presence of Rebirth. It just looks gorgeous on the table, and it just looks like a lot more game than it is. It's very intimidating though, because I mean, it's just one of those games where the turns are so snappy. It just flows. Like turn, 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 turn. My only probably slight frustration is you have to constantly update that score every turn, right? Every time you're at least scoring something potentially. So with Waddle, I find the only frustrating part is probably the scoring. You're not scoring it throughout the game, you're scoring at the end. So all these penguins are all over the board, and now you have to score it. I find the easiest way for me to do it is I will be the scorekeeper, and then we have one person who's kind of counting out the groupings first, and then we go back to each fishing hole 1 through 20. You just do it one at a time. I find you try to jump over the place, it's too hard. So I start with 1, and then I work my way through all the numbers. That way we don't kind of miss something. Hey, but thank you. Please subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit like. I love to hear from you guys. Leave your comments down below. It does help. I mean, it motivates. I love hearing from you guys. It's so much fun to have little conversations about games. I love gaming. I know you do too. And yeah, until the next video, see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.